Settlement Boxing, Shakur Stevenson versus Edwin La Granada de los Santos. Keys to victory, strengths and weaknesses of both guys. We're gonna put the spotlight on it. Stay tuned. Welcome back to Settlement Boxing. Blessings in the name of Jesus. So today we're talking about Shakur Stevenson, affectionately known as Sugar, versus La Granada, Edwin de los Santos. We know this is not the fight that we expected. We expected Frank Martin, but that fell through. Check out my previous video for that content. But today we're looking at the fight. We're supposed to get it on November 16th on Top Rank Boxing. It's supposed to be a great fight. Both guys are great. I know that Edwin de los Santos is an underdog in this fight, and he should be. You know, he's not as decorated, he's not as known as Shakur, but I don't think this fight is a mismatch in the least. I was listening to Showbiz the Adult. Shout out to Showbiz the Adult. I really respect him. I watch his channel a lot. But I think he posted a video saying that this fight is a mismatch, and he compared it to Jaron Boots Ennis versus Villa, the last guy Jaron fought. I think that that's not an accurate comparison, because when you look at Villa just comes straight forward. He has good power, good punching power, and he just comes forward like a robot. He doesn't give any special looks. He just tries to counter as you try to respond to his offense. He just uses pressure. Edwin de los Santos is a different animal. He has a good jab. Edwin de los Santos, not only does he have a good jab, but he has an educated jab. He actually counters the jab very well. You look at that, the Rayo fight, Rayo Valenzuela. You look at that fight, you'll see that when Rayo began to be aggressive against Edwin de los Santos, he would counter the jab. That right hand jab would hit Rayo coming in just on time. He has a good timed right jab, the southpaw jab, and he's very effective. Also, Edwin de los Santos, he changes levels very well. For those of you who don't know what changing levels means, he varies his attack from up and down. So he'll start attacking up top, 1 2 3 4, or he'll attack 1 2 3 4, and he varies his attack. What he does also, which is very fundamental, not super flashy, but he'll attack, bam bam bam, and then he'll exit at an angle to negate any return fire from his opposition. He's not the flashiest fighter, but he does things very well. Those are his strengths. In the Rayo fight, he proved that he can box, he can take a punch, and he can get up from getting knocked down, pull his bearings together, and close the show. You look at his last fight, the fight that he had after the Rayo fight, where he fought Joseph Adorno, and he just showed that he can box for 12 rounds. He boxed beautifully. He countered beautifully. And the thing is, even though he didn't throw a whole lot of combinations, like say 4-punch combinations, he showed that he can throw every punch in the book. He showed a great counter right hook, stepping around an orthodox fighter. He also showed a great counter left uppercut, a great counter right uppercut. And he showed that he can pull and go to the body very well as a southpaw. So those are his strengths. His weaknesses, I think Edwin de los Santos, he can get a little too greedy. That's what got him in trouble in the Rayo fight. That's how he got knocked down. He was beating Rayo to the punch, and he started to get greedy. He started to get a little too overconfident, and Rayo threw a strong counter right hand, I think it is, that hurt him and dropped him. That's the thing about punchers. As good as you're doing against a puncher, they can change everything with one punch, with one shot. So his weakness, one of his weaknesses, his main weakness, I would say, is he tends to get overconfident, especially when he's doing well. And you know, that changes with experience, but that's the fact of the matter. Okay. Shakur Stevenson, we spoke about this before, especially in the Frank Martin analysis. Shakur Stevenson is a complete fighter. He's one of the most complete fighters in the sport. He has a great jab, Shakur. He has great footwork, and there's not much he does wrong. There's really not much Shakur Stevenson does wrong. He controls distance very well. I think that's what one of the most elite aspects of his skill set is, his distance control. Shakur knows where to be in order to hit you, and he knows where he shouldn't be so that you don't hit him. He has a good command and knowledge, awareness of the cadence of boxing, the rhythm of boxing. So he catches guys a lot of times when they're opening up to get him back. He just does very well. He does great boxing, and he does it at a very, 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 very high level. Weaknesses of Shakur Stevenson, there are not many. He has great defense, but I will say this. If Shakur Stevenson is fighting a guy that is aggressive, and it depends on the style of the kind of fight Shakur wants to fight. But if they're standing in the middle of the ring and Shakur is fighting a guy that poses a threat to him offensively, Shakur can get in a posture where he's trying to throw one punch at a time. Shakur can get into a mode where he's throwing one punch at a time. I don't think he can do that versus Edwin de los Santos, because if he does that, Edwin can exploit his low punch output and end up stealing rounds. Okay. So we got strengths, weaknesses, keys to victory. What does Shakur need to do? Shakur needs to be Shakur. Shakur needs to get in the middle of the ring. He needs to feint, and he needs to use his lead hand to set up his offense like he always does. To me, Shakur fences very well with his lead hand. He creates a rhythm with his lead hand from the southpaw stance, and once you fall into it, he kind of lulls you to sleep. You know, like a it's almost like a hypnotist, where they swing the clock, and the victim or the person that's being hypnotized starts following the clock, and then you get them to do whatever they want you to do. That's what Shakur does with his lead hand. He creates a rhythm and a pattern, and as soon as his opposition gets used to it, he changes the rhythm and attacks, right? So that's what Shakur needs to do. Shakur needs to throw combinations. What he needs to do is attack 1, 2, 3, 4. As Edwin de los Santos goes to open up to get his get back, then he needs to beat him to the punch and land 3 or 4 shots more. So 1, 2, 3, 4. As Edwin goes to open up, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then step around. Edwin de los Santos, like I said, Shakur does not have much weaknesses. So how do you beat a guy that doesn't have much weaknesses? It is possible in boxing. How do you do it? You have to create a weakness. Make one of those strengths that the elite fighter has, turn it into a weakness. What do I mean? If you remember, when Jermell Charlo fought Erickson Lubin, Jermell Charlo is a great fighter. He's one of my favorite fighters, but skill for skill, God-given talent, Erickson Lubin is a better boxer. He demonstrates more skills in the ring than Jermell Charlo. I thought that fight was going to be very competitive, but when Jermell Charlo and Erickson Lubin fought, Jermell Charlo knocked him out in the first round. And everyone said, oh, you know, it was a fluke, or it was just too early, or it was a quick shot, a flash knock, whatever you want to call it. Jermell Charlo didn't knock out a fighter that was more talented than him by accident. How did he do it? He exploited a strength. For example, Erickson Lubin has great head movement, great reflexes. What did Jermell Charlo do to knock him out? Jermell Charlo threw the jab while coming in with his feet at the same time. Step, step, jab, stepping in at that angle. And what that did was that made Erickson Lubin dip his head to get away from the right hand. At the last minute, Jermell Charlo turned what Erickson Lubin was expecting into an uppercut. He turned that right hand that Lubin was expecting into a right uppercut and caught him as he was dipping his head down, and he made Erickson Lubin run right into the shot. Marcos Maidana did the same thing against Floyd Mayweather. Everyone knows Floyd Mayweather's signature pull counter. Pull right hand. Pull right hand. He does it very well with his timing. But what did Marcos Maidana do to negate that strength of Floyd Mayweather? He turned it into a weakness. When Floyd Mayweather pulled away from Marcos Maidana's jab to come back with the right hand, Marcos Maidana simply waited for it, and he followed his jab that Floyd pulled away from with a picture-perfect right hand and caught Floyd flat on the mouth at the end of one of those rounds. And if it was in the middle of the round, it may have been something that he could capitalize on. The point I'm making is this: Edwin de los Santos had better use his jab in order to set Shakur Stevenson up to hit him with big shots. If Shakur Stevenson gets in there overconfident and decides to move his head, dodging 3 or 4 shots, Edwin de los Santos may be able to set him up and use his jab as a target finder to land a perfect straight left hand, a perfect left hook, a perfect uppercut, whatever it is, but it's possible. On the books, as you look at it, you have to give the edge to Shakur based on pedigree, based on what has been demonstrated in the ring. So I would say this is a 60-40 fight, but both guys are really good. I think, is Edwin undefeated? I don't know if he's undefeated, but his record is pretty good. I think he has more knockouts than Shakur, and he has demonstrated more power. That's the one edge I'll give to him, but it should be an interesting fight. I am rooting for Edwin de los Santos to win because I'm always going with the underdog, man. But my mind is telling me Shakur is going to be 110% ready for the fight, and the most likely outcome is Shakur may outbox him. But hey, this is boxing. Anything can happen. So we're just going to have to see the fight. With that being said, that's the Soloman Boxing Spotlight on the Matter. Blessings.